Hi, my name is Teresa Jurgens, and thank you for joining me in this reading of the Innovation Process book. We have been incrementally reading through this book, which covers many different new product development or NPD processes for innovation project management. In part one, we covered waterfall, and we are currently in part two covering Agile new product development processes. We are just starting chapter 9 here in episode 14 to talk about phases and tools for Scrum new product development. You can get a copy of the book by scanning that QR code, which will take you to Amazon. The book is available in both paperback and Kindle versions, but I kind of recommend the paperback over the Kindle just because there are so many figures and graphs. I think it's easier to digest all the information in the paperback version. But your choice, because if you have the Kindle, you can take it everywhere with you and be prepared to tackle whatever new product development challenge faces you. So let's go ahead and get started. Chapter 9, Phases and Tools for Scrum NPD. Because Scrum is the most common implementation of Agile project management, especially for tangible product development, we will focus on the phases and tools used in Scrum. By definition, Agile processes prescribe only lightweight structure and roles. However, Scrum also entails a set of ceremonies and rituals that help to advance project work. Not all firms that implement Scrum use all of the ceremonies, rituals, and tools described in this chapter. If you are adopting Scrum as an agile approach to product development, many of these practices and techniques will be helpful. In addition, most of these phases and tools are implemented in some fashion within the hybrid NPD processes to take advantage of simplified processes like team collaboration and customer interaction. Scrum workflow. Agile processes like Scrum use iterations to conduct small phases of work with frequent release of features. Traditional staged and gated NPD processes release a final product at the conclusion of the project, while Agile institutes multiple rollouts. Scrum releases vary from launching an MVP, remember that means minimal viable product, to adding features or correcting bugs. Figure 9.1 shown here compares a generic waterfall process with upfront planning and a full product release of a Scrum project that has multiple incremental releases through the project. Sprint. A sprint is, quote, a time-boxed iteration in which the Scrum team works and creates deliverables, end quote. For software products, a sprint duration is typically 2 weeks. But depending on the application, sprints may last 1 to 6 weeks. Sprints are designed to be short duration events in which the Scrum team works on and releases incremental project deliverables. The short duration helps the team to adapt to changing requirements. Usually, sprint durations are fixed to the same length throughout a project. This is not a mandatory element for Scrum. In addition to incremental product releases, the overall Scrum project workflow includes a cadence within each sprint, starting with the product roadmap and feature backlog. Because Scrum teams are small, there are several planning ceremonies and rituals to integrate the individual projects with the larger business vision, objectives, and goals. Figure 9.2 shows the Scrum flow for a single sprint. A sprint starts with the prioritized product backlog and ends with the release of working software or another agreed upon deliverable. Prioritized product backlog. The prioritized product backlog is a requirements document that defines the scope of the product development project by rank ordering the features that are to be delivered. Typically, these features are described by user stories with specific requirements associated with other artifacts in Scrum, such as story points, acceptance criteria, burn down charts. User stories follow a prescribed format that allow the development team to determine the amount and type of work necessary to create the deliverable. See Figure 9.3 for an example of a user story. Notice that user stories are similar to the product concept statement in a waterfall new product development process, as in Chapter 4. Prior to release of the increment, feature, or product, the product owner will match the deliverable with acceptance criteria, validating that the requirement has been fulfilled by the design. Based on the set of customer requirements, the product owner will establish a set of user stories in priority. Priorities are based on several different elements. For instance, the value that the feature will add to the product and to the business may increase the priority of the user story in the product backlog, indicating that it should be completed during an early iteration. Other elements that product owners use to rank order the product backlog include uncertainty and dependencies. If there is more risk in designing and developing a key feature, the product owner should move that component higher in the prioritized product backlog. While dealing with risk early in a project does not guarantee success, having more time to solve a tricky problem usually helps the team's ability to deal with uncertainty. Likewise, user stories often have dependencies among them. For example, being able to store a user's name and credit card number, as in the user story shown here in figure 9.3, requires that each user also has a unique identifier. Storing a credit card number is thus dependent upon another user story with a deliverable of a unique customer identifier, such as login ID or email address. The product owner may prioritize features associated with unique customer identifier ahead of the requirements to store payment information to handle dependencies. Sprint scope. Depending on the length of a sprint, the Scrum team may spend 4 to 8 hours in a sprint planning meeting. The purpose of this ceremony is to determine which items on the prioritized product backlog can be completed during the next sprint. Factors such as the complexity of the deliverable and team member availability are factored into sprint planning. Planning poker is a common method of estimating the scale of tasks for a given sprint. Cards with numbers from a Fibonacci series are distributed to the development team members. Team members select cards indicating the amount of time or effort they think is required to convert the user story to a working deliverable. A benefit of this tool is to drive communication among team members, especially if there is a large spread among numbers selected by different team members. An example of this simplest set of planning poker cards is shown in figure 9-4. Some Scrum teams directly translate the consensus effort number from planning poker to story points. Story points are then tracked on the project burndown chart during a sprint to indicate completion of product features. The total number of story points for a sprint represent the incremental project scope committed by the Scrum team. Foundational to estimating effort for a sprint is that the product owner provides full explanation of the user stories and acceptance criteria, and that the team members can honestly assess the necessary effort to complete the deliverable. For example, a user story that scores a 2 should entail twice the effort as a user story scoring a 1. Scrum development teams work with the product owner and Scrum Master to ensure that the number of user stories designed and assigned to a given sprint can be completed. So if the team agrees to work on 3 user stories during the next 2-week sprint, they are agreeing to deliver the completed features for these 3 stories. During the subsequent sprint retrospective, the Scrum Master will collect metrics to determine the accuracy of the estimate. By incorporating these learnings into the next sprint planning meeting, the Scrum process encourages adaptation and continuous learning. Sprint iteration. During the sprint period of 1 to 4 weeks, incremental project work is completed. For the user story of figure 9.3, the Scrum team would determine how best to code and to test saving a user's payment information. There may be several alternatives to writing and testing the code, but the Scrum team will determine the best way to accomplish the deliverable. Team autonomy and self-organization are fundamental beliefs within the Agile philosophy. Stand-up meeting. Typically, the Scrum Master will meet daily with the development team to monitor project status. Part of the Scrum Master's role is to remove impediments and roadblocks so that the development team can do their work without interference. The daily stand-up meeting provides the opportunity for team members to share their work status and to request help from the Scrum Master if needed. Often the daily stand-up meeting is held in front of the project Scrum board with team members literally standing in front of it. The daily stand-up meeting is time-boxed to 15 minutes and normally limited to the active team and Scrum Master. Team members report their progress by answering the following 3 questions. 1. what did I complete yesterday? 2, what will I complete today? 3, what obstacles, if any, am I encountering? An important component of the daily stand-up meeting is that it is designed for information sharing only. If a team member has encountered a problem or challenge and needs help from another team member or another situation arises, these issues are addressed outside of the daily stand-up meeting. In fact, physically standing in front of the Scrum board to share their project status reports, since standing versus sitting reinforces the short duration of the meeting. Incremental release. One of the fundamental concepts in the Agile Manifesto is working software over contract negotiation. In practice, incremental releases of features, functions, and products allow the development team to adapt to changing requirements. Some teams will agree to a feature or function release for each sprint by subdividing the work to very small tasks. Other teams will align stakeholder expectations with functional releases when major objectives are met, regardless if the work takes multiple sprints to complete. For IT projects, working software means a specific set of code that operates as specified in the user story. For example above, a release increment is software code that is written and tested to assign each customer a unique identifier. A subsequent release increment for the project is code that is written and tested that will maintain customers' payment information associated with that unique identifier. It is the joint responsibility of the product owner and Scrum team to agree upon a reasonable release schedule that is implemented during sprint planning sessions. The product owner will review each incremental release during a review and demonstration at the conclusion of the appropriate sprint. During the sprint planning meeting, the product owner will define acceptance criteria that correspond to the user stories. During the sprint review meeting, the development team will demonstrate the functionality that they have created and that meets the acceptance criteria for the user stories worked during that sprint. For tangible product development, sprints might be up to 6 weeks in duration, but the concepts are similar to those of software projects. An incremental release for a tangible product might be a non-working prototype to demonstrate form. Other sprint tasks for tangible new product development include customer needs gathering, engineering design, prototype testing, and market planning. However, the product owner and the NPD team will still agree on sprint goals and acceptance criteria for completion of these objectives. In addition to incremental releases, the core Scrum team, product owner, Scrum Master, and development team, will determine major product releases. Typically, these major product releases are tied to the product roadmap. For example, while incremental releases of software validate different sections of code, a product release constitutes an updated version for customer use. Tangible product releases may introduce different product versions or commercial launches in different geographical regions. So thank you for being with me today on the first part of Chapter 9, Phases and Tools of Scrum New Product Development. In the next episode, episode 15, we'll be discussing Scrum ceremonies. In the meantime, if you'd like to read ahead, please do so by getting a copy of the Innovation Process book by scanning the QR code there, which will take you to Amazon. You can pick up a paperback copy or a Kindle copy. And we're offering a course starting August 12th, 2025 for 6 weeks, starting with waterfall processes, agile processes, and then we're going to spend 2 weeks each on the hybrid processes of Wagile and of lean new product development. If you want to scan the QR code in the circle, you can get access to that course registration, and I hope to see you then. If not, I'll see you in the next episode of the Innovation Process book. Thank you.